A convulsive fit in the dark, 3:15 in the morning, room 290 of the Château de Grand Romaine. A body seizes, the roommate panics. Another teammate runs through the hotel screaming for help. In the first moments, no one knows if he will wake up again. 72 minutes before the World Cup final, a team sheet arrives at FIFA. The name is not on it. 30 minutes later, another team sheet arrives. This time it is. This is football untold. This is the story of Ronaldo 1998, the night before the final. In 1996, a 20-year-old Brazilian striker won the FIFA World Player of the Year award. His name was Ronaldo Nazário. He won it again in 1997. By 1998, Ronaldo was not the future of football. He was the present. He had moved to Inter Milan for a fee that made him the most expensive teenager in the history of the sport, 31 million euros. He was 22. He had already proven he was the best player alive. He had already done more than most footballers do in an entire career, and he was barely beginning. France hosted the World Cup in 1998. Ronaldo arrived in the squad as the favorite for the Golden Boot and as the centerpiece of Brazil's attack. Every scout knew what he could do. Every defender knew the danger. None of it mattered. In the group stage, he moved with a violence and precision that left defenses in pieces. In the knockout rounds, he was still getting stronger. Every match was a masterclass. Every moment was a statement. By the time Brazil reached the quarterfinals, Ronaldo had already scored 4 goals and provided 3 assists. The tournament was barely half over, and he was already leading the scoring race by the distance you might measure in light years. The quarterfinal was against Netherlands. Ronaldo played. Brazil won. The semifinal was against Denmark. Ronaldo played. Brazil won again. Every team sheet that went to FIFA had his name on it. Every starting lineup confirmed what everyone already knew. The sense in Paris, in the week before the final, was not whether Ronaldo would win the tournament. It was how many goals he would score in the match that mattered most. Brazil booked into the Château de Grand Romaine in the suburbs of Paris. It was July 12, 1998. The final would be played that evening at the Stade de France. The best player in the world had 1 day left to rest before the moment that would define his career. On the morning of the 12th, Brazil trained. Ronaldo was there. He was sharp. He was ready. He went back to the hotel to sleep before the evening match. He lay down in room 290 with Roberto Carlos, his roommate. That was the last moment anything was certain. The seizure came at 3:15 in the morning. What happened in that darkness has never been fully explained. No doctor has ever diagnosed it. Ronaldo himself, decades later, would say he still does not know what happened to his body that night. In the moment, it was chaos. His eyes rolled back. His body convulsed violently. He turned blue. He swallowed his tongue. Roberto Carlos, sharing the room, saw it and panicked. Cesar Sampaio, a defender, arrived and applied first aid. Another teammate, Edmundo, ran through the corridors of the hotel screaming for medical help. For several minutes, though it felt longer to everyone in that hotel, no one was sure that Ronaldo would regain consciousness. When he woke, the order came from the coaching staff: do not tell him what happened. Do not alarm him. Let him think it was nothing. Keep him calm. He woke, and they smiled, and they said nothing about the seizure, nothing about Roberto Carlos's panic, nothing about the screaming in the hallway. Ronaldo slept again. When he woke a second time, he said he felt fine, but he did not feel fine. His body had done something beyond his control in the darkness, and he woke with no explanation for it. He woke with fear. He demanded medical tests. The club doctor, Lidio Toledo, made the call. Ronaldo would go to the Lilas Clinic, a private facility in Paris. They ran a neurological examination. They ran a cardiac examination. They took blood work. Everything came back clear. The neurologist found nothing. The cardiologist found nothing. The blood work showed nothing abnormal. Every test said the same thing: Ronaldo was fit to play. Meanwhile, Mario Zagallo, Brazil's coach, was making a decision. His best player had suffered an unexplained medical episode in the night. The World Cup final would be played in hours. Zagallo submitted the official team sheet to FIFA without Ronaldo's name on it. Edmundo would start in his place. The man who had dominated the tournament, the FIFA World Player of the Year for 2 consecutive seasons, would watch the final from the bench. 72 minutes before kickoff, As the stadium in St. Denis began to fill with 75,000 people, Ronaldo arrived at the Stade de France. He was walking, he was talking, he was coherent. He said he wanted to play. He said all the tests were clear. He said there was no medical reason to exclude him. He said he was ready. Zagallo faced a decision that had no easy answer. On one side was the medical evidence, tests that all came back normal, a player insisting he was fit. On the other side was the fear, the unknown, the fact that something unexplained had happened to his best player's body just hours earlier. And there was another consideration. If he kept Ronaldo out and Brazil lost, he would have to live with that decision for the rest of his life. Zagallo called for the team sheet to be revised. He added Ronaldo's name back in. Years later, when asked why, Zagallo would explain it simply. Once the medical tests came back clear, there was no choice. You cannot exclude a player who has passed every examination from a World Cup final based on something you do not understand. But there were other forces at work. Nike held a contract with the Brazilian Football Confederation worth £105 million, an enormous sum for the time. This was an era before financial transparency, before the football world had come to terms with the machinery of sponsorship and corporate influence. The question would hang over the decision. Was it really about medical evidence and Zagallo's judgment, or was it about money? In 2001, 3 years after the final, the Brazilian parliament opened an inquiry into the 1998 World Cup, the CPI do Futebol. The inquiry examined the Nike contract. It examined the events of that final. No evidence of direct interference was ever produced. Nike denied any involvement. The investigation ended without charges, but the shadow of the question remained. The decision to play Ronaldo was never given an explanation that felt complete. On the pitch in the Stade de France, with the noise of 75,000 people filling the air, Ronaldo was not himself. He was there, but he was not there. Every touch was heavy. Every decision came slowly. He could not find the spaces where he had lived for the entire tournament. The precision was gone. The violence was gone. He was a ghost in his own final. France played with precision. Zinedine Zidane, playing in what would be his last match for his country, was the center of everything. He scored twice from corners. The second goal made it 3-0. By the time the whistle blew, France had won 3-0. Ronaldo had been on the pitch for 90 minutes. His touch had been empty. Nothing he did in that stadium would be remembered except for the questions it raised. The biggest mystery in World Cup history is not who won. It is what happened in room 290. The seizure was never explained. No diagnosis was ever given. Ronaldo himself, decades later, would say the same thing. He did not know what happened. He still does not know. For 4 years after that final, Ronaldo disappeared. In 1999, he suffered a knee injury. In 2000, he suffered another, catastrophic, live on television in Rome, his kneecap exploding during a simple step, the moment caught forever in film. For 4 years, the man who had been FIFA World Player of the Year twice could barely play football. In 2002, the World Cup came to Japan and Korea. Ronaldo was selected for the squad. No one knew if he could still play. No one knew if his knees would hold. The first time he touched the ball, he moved like the seizure and the injuries had never happened. He was whole again. He scored 8 goals in the tournament. He scored both goals in the final against Germany. Ronaldo won the Golden Boot. Ronaldo won the World Cup. He remains the only player to ever win the Golden Boot and the World Cup in the same tournament. He remains the last man to score twice in a World Cup final. When Ronaldo retired from international football, he left as the World Cup's all-time leading goalscorer with 15 goals. That record stood for 16 years. It seemed permanent. It seemed impossible to touch. But the question remained. What happened in room 290? Why did his body betray him on the night before his moment? Was it stress? Was it a neurological event that medicine could not name? Was it something else, something that sits outside the boundaries of what doctors understand? The seizure sits in history like an unanswered question. It interrupted nothing and changed everything. Ronaldo played the final. Brazil lost. He came back 4 years later and won it all. The story ends with redemption and a World Cup trophy. But the seizure is the part that no one can explain. It is the mystery at the center of the greatest story in World Cup history. It is the part that stayed with Ronaldo his entire life, a moment he cannot remember, in a hotel room he cannot explain, for reasons that have never been given to him. Some stories end at full time, this one never did.